Hello, ghosties. I'm Chance Lee,
And I'm Amanda McAvoy.
and this is That's So Gothic, a movie podcast about girls, guys, and haunted houses. Brew yourself a hot tisane and drink as we discuss My Cousin Rachel.
I have written to you several times, but there is no one I can trust to take my letters to the mail. She is away from the house today. That's why I'm able to write this. For weeks I've been ill, fevers, terrible headaches, but she watches me like a hawk. Believe nothing but this. She'll ruin me. She'll ruin everything.
Look, Rachel, my torment. She has done for me at last.
Whatever it cost my cousin in pain and suffering before he died, I will return in full measure upon the woman that caused it.
She's here.
What are you going to do with her?
Confront her.
Come in. Won't you sit down for a moment?
I believe had I been here, my cousin would still be alive.
Drink. He didn't trust anyone at the end, and I found myself living with a stranger and wanted to hurt me.
I've been doing a little asking around. She's notorious. Do you understand?
Try.
It's disgusting.
It's good for the house.
You need to read the letter.
You must have hated me.
You're not the woman I hated. I don't know why you came. I don't know anything about you. All I know is that I like it now you're here.
Now go to bed like a good boy. Go.
How easy it must be for a woman like Rachel to twist you around her little finger.
You know nothing about her.
Or is it you who know nothing?
I want you to be my wife.
Have you gone out of your mind?
Where do you go?
Can't you let me be a person in my own right? A woman who's making her way in the world as she wishes.
You're completely infatuated with her. You're delusional.
Stay away from me!
Don't close the door. I cannot be alone with you.
I've been worried about you. The headache, the sickness.
This is a special batch. I've made it double strength.
You could lose everything.
Everything.
Drink.
Released in 2017, My Cousin Rachel was written and directed by Roger Mitchell, based on a novel by Daphne du Maurier, Gothic Queen.
Mm-hmm.
This movie stars Rachel Weisz as Rachel, easy to remember, Sam Claflin as Philip, and Holiday Granger as Louise. And this is the story of a 19th century simp.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to use that term because I feel like
Right.
it circles in like the men's rights and like incel communities. But
Yes.
honestly, that's
Yes.
like what is happening
Yes.
here.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't use the word like simpering in this movie.
It would be a really good word for them to use
Yeah.
for this.
Lots of
So-
simpering.
Very much so. He's adorable when he does it, but
He is.
also kind of annoying. So this film grossed about $10 million worldwide against an unknown budget. I could not find the budget
Wow.
anywhere. But I'm assuming it was fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
It has a 76 critical tomato
Mm.
and a 45% audience tomato.
Really?
Yeah. So I pulled a few audience reviews from Rotten Tomatoes to read. I can see why he fell for his cousin, because she was fit and I'd happily be poisoned by her any day. As for the rest, decidedly average at best, 2.5 stars. Hated every moment of this film. The main character is an insufferable moron. Zero chemistry between anyone. The movie plods along painfully, with Philip making all the wrong decisions. Just when you think it can't get any worse, they kill a freaking horse at the end. Exhausted with this Hollywood trend of killing an animal to compensate for a poor storyline. 1 star.
Oh my God.
Intense.
Wow.
Saw it after reading the book. Every actor is fabulous, and the production is lavishly beautiful. It's very gothic. Did she or didn't she? Let me know what you think. 3 stars.
Oh, yay.
Sir.
Couldn't even at least do 4? Come on.
I know. So yeah, everyone's kind of lukewarm on this movie. Had you seen this movie before?
I had not. No, this was my first time, and I've never read the book either.
I have not read the book, but I did see this movie. This is I don't know what, I didn't do a count, but this movie, we've done a lot of 2017 movies recently. 2017 was a real gothic year for film.
Yeah.
And this one's was great to see in the theater just because of the cinematography of the cliffs of England.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, it is a beautiful movie.
Beautiful movie, very well shot, very well framed. Everything about it is just very, very well done.
Yeah.
And I think Rachel Weisz just steals this movie.
Oh, she's so good.
She's someone who I feel like I should think about more frequently, but I think she's not a flashy performer. She's just exceptional in everything.
Yeah. And I think she does a really good job of picking roles too. She's in some really good movies.
Yes, I'm sure many people first saw her in The Mummy in 1999 and instantly fell in love. Who is this person?
Yep.
She was kind of doing what Keira Knightley would do later in Pirates of the Caribbean, being the thankless woman in an action movie role.
Yeah.
And I think Keira Knightley also, there's got to be a gothic Keira Knightley movie we can talk about at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got to find something because I love her too. I don't think we've ever talked about her, but they have kind of parallel tracks, I feel like, despite being maybe, 20 years apart in age.
Yeah.
But, and Rachel Weisz, though, she was married to Darren Aronofsky for 9 years, so she knows what it's like to be trapped in a horrible gothic scenario.
Wonder if her and Jennifer Lawrence ever had any gothic girl chats.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I didn't know she was married to him, or at least maybe I did and I forgot, but that seems right. Was she ever in any of his movies? Do you know?
So she's in The Fountain, which I could not even finish.
Right. Right.
That
so that was
really
a poor
bad
movie choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great for her because she is the woman who the Hugh Jackman character will try to save her life over the course of being reborn and many generations. Like she plays this perfect woman, which honestly is great casting for her because she is perfect in every way.
She's so great.
She's so good. She I was looking at her IMDb and I was like, I've seen so many of her movies. Like I've seen a lot of them, even though I don't know, I don't think about her, which I think is more of a testament to her because she's just always solid. She's always good.
Yes, she's very consistent. Yeah.
And then we also have Sam Claflin, which is a name that I really struggle to say for some reason. It's those two L's being really close together.
Yeah.
Do you know him from The Hunger Games or similar? I feel like the only movie I've ever noticed him in.
Now that you say The Hunger Games, that rings a bell. I always immediately associate him with that Me Before You movie with Emma. Is that her name? No, the girl from Game of Thrones. It doesn't matter.
I can see her in my mind. Daenerys. I've never even watched Game of Thrones. I've seen 4 episodes, but I know Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah. So
and Emilia Clarke.
Emilia Clarke, that's what it is. That's always where my mind jumps to with him. But I forgot he was in Hunger Games. Yeah.
Yeah, he's cute.
I always get him and Aaron Taylor Johnson mixed up.
Oh, I can see that. He's
they kind of
this guy's like the British Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
If Aaron Taylor Johnson is British, he's never been British in a movie for sure. I don't know if he is or not.
I can't imagine. He seems very American. I don't know.
He's very American. He's got that big beard and everything sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we have Holiday Granger, who's a woman I don't know, but has a fantastic name. Holiday Granger.
Oh, I know. She's like Christmas embodied.
She is, and there's a really great Christmas scene in this movie.
Yeah.
And even though I say I don't know her, guess what? We've discussed a Holiday Granger movie before.
Ooh, what was it?
Jane Eyre. She plays one of St. John Rivers' sisters.
Oh, one of the creepy sisters.
And this would have been I mean, that was what, 8 years before this movie? Gosh,
Yeah.
even that was a long time
Yeah.
before this movie. So,
Wow.
she was very young in that.
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I was like, either she's very young in Jane Eyre, or she does not age because she looks very young in this movie too.
I think it's a little of both. She seems
Yeah.
just very youthful. She's a
Yes.
redhead. They've got great genes as a redhead.
Yes. That is so
Mhm.
true. So true.
Except for Ron Howard, but we won't go there. Bryce Dallas Howard, goddess, love her.
Yes.
And then last but not least, we have our director and writer, Roger Mitchell.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, he died in 2021. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Oh.
But he directed Notting Hill.
Yeah. Yeah. I looked him up, and that was the only movie of his I recognized. I haven't seen that in forever.
I was not on the Julia Roberts rom-com train, so I never saw that movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I threw it on when I was a teenager.
People are very fond of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's my own, I don't know what adjective to use, but I just assumed a woman wrote this movie because it feels very thoughtful regarding the female character. But he was with the writer and the director, and I listened to the director's commentary of the movie, and he was so thoughtful and so interesting and just seemed like such a great filmmaker. I really enjoyed hearing him talk about the movie, and it was kind of, I don't know, it was weird when I was listening to the commentary and then doing research, and then I saw he died while I was listening to his voice talking. It was such a surreal feeling, and I don't even know the man, so it was interesting. And he was young. He was only in his 60s.
Oh, that's such a bummer. Yeah, because like I said, the only other movie I recognized was Notting Hill. I don't know if there's any other movies of his worth checking out, but now I feel bad. I want to watch more of his movies.
I know. I feel like that happens sometimes where I listen to these commentaries with directors who I've never heard of before. And they're so thoughtful and so interesting and so fascinating.
Right. Yeah.
One of the weirder ones, I can't even think of the name of the director, but the commentary for Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Goes to Manhattan.
Yeah.
It's a really good commentary. The guy who made that movie is really smart, and
really?
Yes, and just like the stuff he talks about is fascinating to me. I think that movie is underappreciated.
I think I might have to watch it just for the commentary.
I might have mentioned that movie before on the podcast. I can't remember because it has one of my all-time favorite transition scenes in all of cinema is in Jason Takes Manhattan. I mean, and that's why I saw that. I'm like, whoever did this is an artist. And I'm not saying this was not a single hint of sarcasm. The guy who made that movie is an artist. Love it.
Oh, on par with Michelangelo.
Oh, yes. Our modern Michelangelo for sure. Well, let's get into the plot summary for this movie. I think this movie is also a masterpiece, a quiet masterpiece. It's a small masterpiece, but still a masterpiece. I love this movie. So we begin with some voiceover, and voiceovers are always bad. And they talk about that on the commentary, which I found fascinating. They talk about how there's so much time before you get to the Rachel of My Cousin Rachel, and you get to the Rachel Weisz of the movie. So they really had no choice. They're like, we either make this movie long and have this boring, like, first 20 minutes, or we put in this voiceover and get to the point.
That's so interesting because that was actually when I started watching this movie. I immediately thought I wasn't going to like it because of the first 20 minutes. Because the first 20 minutes, you know, like you're describing, is just plot. It's just exposition literally being told at you. And, you know, I feel like we've talked about it on the podcast before. That's usually not our favorite. And I still, in retrospect, was like, oh, I don't really like that. But I guess when you talk about what the alternative would be, I guess it's sort of like, okay, the lesser of two evils, I guess, at least.
And you do need it, I think, because this story is so weirdly nuanced. And there was something I didn't pick up on. And I've seen this movie at least twice, maybe 3 times. Well, when I watched with the commentary for the 4th time. But did you notice that Sam Claflin plays the cousin as well?
The cousin?
Cousin Ambrose, the one who raises him, he plays him also in the flashbacks.
No, I didn't notice.
Me neither. I had not a single clue.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
he
that's so
plays
funny.
both parts. Yeah. And I guess it's a big thing because then when Rachel sees the cousin and sees how much he looks like her
Yeah.
husband, it's like the Patty Duke show, but with men in the 1900s, like identical cousins, like, you know, but they made a big deal about it. I never even picked up on that, and the story still worked
Yeah.
for me. But
Right. I think
yeah,
I was so focused on just like absorbing the information that I
yes.
didn't even put it together. Oh, that's so interesting.
And they give him a different haircut and like different teeth and
Mm,
stuff. But yeah, they brought it up in the commentary, and I thought, wow, I never noticed that at all.
wow. Hmm.
So we do get a lot of exposition. What we learn is that our main character, Philip, was an orphan. He was raised by his much older cousin, Ambrose, who loved
Mhm.
him like a father. And they lived this boy's life together. As he
Yeah.
says, quote, the only women were the dogs.
Yeah. It was a
And
big meat fest.
yes, sausage party. I mean, I would gladly be stuck between two different Sam Claflins, honestly. So put me in that sandwich. Um, and then he, as an adult or in his 20s, I always forget one key thing to this too. He's 24.
Yeah, he's a
Like
baby.
he's so young,
Yeah.
and he has a friend, Louise,
Mhm.
who might as well be one of the dogs to him. He barely acknowledges her.
Yeah.
She is mooning over him constantly, and he doesn't see her in that way at
Yeah.
all. And one of the things they also pointed out in the commentary, there's a scene where he's talking to her in a barn, and they say, this is a classic movie scene of one character moving bales of hay from one side of the barn to the other. There's no reason for them to
Yeah.
ever do this, but it gives some movement to the scene. Which is I thought that was really amusing.
That's really funny.
So the cousin Ambrose gets ill. He's
Mhm.
sent to Italy to take in the sunshine and
Yeah.
feel better.
Mhm.
And there he meets their cousin Rachel
Yeah.
and marries her, because that's a thing you do.
Yeah.
And as they say, his cousin, quote, never had much need for women. So
Mhm.
he's met this woman, he's married her, and then these weird letters start to come saying that Rachel is driving him crazy. She might be killing him. Come quickly, Rachel, my torment, come quickly.
Yes.
And then we get the title card, My Cousin Rachel.
Yeah.
So Philip rushes to Italy to see his cousin / father figure, finds out that he's dead from
Yep.
this kind of burly mustachioed man.
Yeah.
This guy has a great mustache. Like he can not be
Yes.
facing the camera and the mustache is still visible as it
It's
sticks out.
so prominent. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's really well groomed.
Mhm.
And Philip immediately vows to get revenge on this Rachel, even
Right.
though he's told Ambrose died of a brain tumor. He believes that Rachel killed him.
Mhm.
So Philip inherits everything, furthering the evidence that Rachel would have no motive to even kill this man.
Right.
But they decide they have to take her in because she is his widow and she has no money.
Yeah.
She's been left with nothing.
Yeah,
So
well.
they have to clean up the house. The house has just gone to shit as this bachelor pad.
Yeah.
Literally, Louise says, has every dog in the county taken a shit in here?
I love
Good
her,
line.
by the way.
She's such a. I really fell in love with Holiday Granger in this
Yeah.
movie. Give Holiday Granger the lead in something, and I will watch
Yeah.
it. Just waiting
Right.
for that to happen. So they have this kind of cleaning montage where they clean everything.
Yeah.
And he starts talking about how he'll confront Rachel as soon as she gets here, because she must be ugly or too fat to get up the stairs. And you already know that he's talking about Rachel Weisz. Like, so he's
Right.
gonna be like, you just know he's off base.
So wrong.
So wrong. So it's a full 20 minutes before Rachel Weisz finally shows up. and she has a teacup, which she will have frequently in this movie. There's lots of tea in this movie. And they share tea and they chat in this, to me, very like classic Gothic scene.
Yeah.
It's dark. They're lit only by fire and
Yeah.
candlelight. There's
Right.
bells tolling. You often see her in just these kind of blurry over the shoulder shots where you only see her
Yeah.
eyes.
Right. And she's wearing the mourning clothes, so she's always wearing black with the black veils, and yeah. Very
Her black
creepy.
outfits are so good.
They're so good. I think though I did read that she only had 2 dresses in the whole movie because they were trying to convey that she had to travel there, so she wouldn't bring that much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's really cool.
Yeah, so it's probably different styling and things, and I wonder too if they meant like 2 black dresses, because I'm pretty sure at some point she wears something with color. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a pivotal moment later on where she's finally out of mourning and she puts on a blue dress.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if that one counts, but yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, her styling is great. And just Rachel Weisz in black is stunning.
Yes.
And we will soon see her in black on a white horse as she and Philip ride along these gorgeous cliffs. And they talk about the land that Ambrose owned. He's this very wealthy landowner on the cliffs of England.
Yeah.
And she continues to prove that she actually did love this man. Philip is surprised she knows so much about the land and the people. Right. And she says, all this was his passion, so I made it my passion too.
Yeah.
And it feels very genuine. And she also advises Philip to marry Louise. She's very quickly picks up on that.
Yeah.
And she jokes about how she's not going to have enough money and she's going to need to teach Italian lessons to the women, that live on the land.
Yeah.
And then she makes this tisane. She's always talking about a tisane that she's made because the film will do this thing where it's always trying to make us guess. Is she poisoning him too? Or is he going crazy? Right. And the tisane is a big part of it. There's so many lines of the script just say Rachel, drink, drink. She's always saying drink.
Yes. Drink all of it.
Drink all of it. You haven't finished your tisane. So he ends up giving her some money. He has his godfather, who is Louise's dad, help forge a letter from Ambrose that says he actually is leaving Rachel an allowance. So when she discovers this, she is pissed the fuck off.
She's mad. She's mad.
She says that she wants to be, quote, a woman who's making her way in the world the way she wants to.
Hell yeah. And I hope that way is by killing people.
Take that money.
Yeah.
So she says that, but yeah, she's not stupid. So she does agree to accept the allowance. And they have this long, heartfelt discussion because she wants to also leave. She doesn't want this charity of leaving on this country estate. She wants to live in London. But Philip convinces her to stay for a little bit. And she gives him a smooch. So he's just over the moon. And they were talking about this on the commentary, this scene, because they are lit by basically one candle and like very little ambient lighting over Rachel Weisz. And they talk about how this is thanks to digital photography. They can do these scenes with this type of lighting. And I was like, get the director of photography, hook him up with Sofia Coppola, because we couldn't see a fucking thing in The Beguiled.
Seriously.
Like, either get Nicole a brighter candle or get a different DP, because we couldn't see a goddamn thing in that movie.
Yeah.
And in this one, they have one candle and they are just radiantly glowing.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, lighting was never an issue in this movie.
Never an issue, even though, again, It's equally as dark as The
Yeah,
Beguiled, but you can
right.
see what's going on.
Yes, it feels as dark, it feels as atmospheric, but it's not pitch black.
Exactly. So
Mm.
this continues to be a Sofia Coppola hate cast, but come on, just even technically, like, I don't know, pick it up a bit.
Yeah.
And they talk about later, and I don't think I noted it, so I'll mention it now. He will have some bizarre dream sequences later on in the movie, and they shot those on 35 millimeter film. So it creates a different texture for the most of the movie versus these dream sequences, which I found really interesting that they
Oh,
even used a different medium to shoot them.
yeah, I really loved those dream sequences. I think that was the point in the movie where I like I was liking it up until that point, but I was like hooked. It was really interesting.
They're really cool, and they talked about this shooting those as they kind of shot the rest of the movie, because you
Mm,
see actors, you know, in different scenes, you see set pieces that you've done before,
yeah,
but different actors who normally weren't in those scenes and doing weird shit.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. So Philip is starting to fall for Rachel.
Mm.
He's helping her go around because she helps sick people in their little village or whatever with her tisana. And he does mention casually at one point that people think she's a witch.
Yeah.
And she says, "You know nothing about women." Very pointed and true.
Yeah.
And he eventually shares with her Ambrose's letter in which he accuses her of poisoning him and murdering him.
Mhm.
And then he burns it and he tells her, "You're not the woman that I hated."
Yeah.
And he then turns to give her his mother's priceless pearls. So he's gone from one kiss to, "Here are my mother's priceless pearls."
Yes.
And of course, it's Rachel Weisz in these gorgeous pearls. She
Oh,
looks amazing.
yeah.
They wear them to this big Christmas celebration,
Mhm.
which is fascinating from a period movie perspective because it's all these people kind of like partying with their landlord,
Yeah,
basically.
right. It's all of these people who are wearing pretty typical clothing, and then it's just Rachel Weisz in this amazing ball gown and pearls, and it's it's a choice.
Right? Like I've lived in apartment buildings, and if my landlord invited me to a Christmas party, like the person actually profiting from my rent,
Mm,
I mean, maybe I'd go. Like it's the food. I guess the food's free. I mean, if this is a
yeah,
really nice celebration, I guess, but it's still just it's so strange because I don't know, 15 minutes before we get him like calling out for taxes, you know, in the
yeah,
square or whatever. It's
right.
so transactional.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I would go for a free meal. There's not a whole lot I wouldn't do for a free meal. So,
That's true. And
um,
it's one of the few nice times they get to have. And the Christmas tree they have is just like this floor to ceiling,
yeah.
gigantic, like Christmas fir tree that's lit up and gorgeous.
Yeah, it's massive. And at this party, Rachel starts tossing out presents, very Oprah style. She's throwing all sorts of stuff into the crowd.
That's true. She gets everyone a gift. Like she's
Yeah.
so sweet and thoughtful.
Hmm.
They immediately turn that against her because they talk about how she is severely overdrawn on her
Yeah.
account.
Yes.
And they think she's sending money out of the country because all those gifts even wouldn't account for the amount of money that she's spending.
Right.
And Louise's dad is telling Philip that her first husband actually died in a duel with one of her lovers
Hmm.
and just how horny they were all the time. And he thinks she should return these pearls. And Philip says, "No, I want her to keep them." They argue for a bit, but Rachel comes in of her own accord and she returns the pearls. And
Yeah.
she says, Louise explained the situation to her. And, she wants to give them back. It was a very nice thought. She feels honored to have worn them for the night.
Yeah.
But Philip is pissed. He gets mad at her. He calls her a fool. He gets mad
Hmm.
at the Godfather. He says, "I want Rachel to wear them every night." He's a fucking mess.
Yeah. He's seething.
He's seething and misdirecting his anger in a
Hmm.
variety of different directions. So we learn later on that Rachel had lost a child. She'd had a miscarriage, and that Ambrose also wrote a will in which he would will her his estate, but he never signed it.
Yeah.
And so Philip decides he's going to write out this agreement and fix that and end up giving everything to Rachel. He's set to inherit everything on his 25th birthday, and then he's going to give it to her.
Right.
And this agreement has these really nice scalloped edges at the top. Did you notice that paper?
I didn't, but that's lovely. I love
Yeah,
it.
at first I thought it was folded and it was the way he was holding it. But no, it has these like scalloped edges at the top. I was like, oh, they're so fancy with the presentation.
Honestly, wow. We should do more documents like that.
Everything's digital now. Like we
Yeah.
really should have stuff on really nice parchment paper that we could
Honestly.
sign with a
like a quill.
quill pen.
Yeah.
Which I can't. I remember trying to use a calligraphy pen in the 8th grade, and what a fucking mess that was.
Yeah, I could never get it, like, because you have to control the ink flow. No.
No, it just blobs out.
Yep. Just
My
give
teacher
me
also
my
called it.
Uniball.
I grew up in Mississippi. My teacher called it calligraphy, and I was really bad at calligraphy.
Aw.
I don't
No
even
good.
like at the gel pens. Like even those blob for me. Like
Yeah.
I think the one I like is a Pilot 0.7 millimeter.
Oh.
So
yeah, see, I
those are
like
good
a
pens.
Uniball, and I like a very, very fine. Like I usually do a 0.5 millimeter.
0.5 is a good one too. Yeah. Fine point is where it's at.
Yeah. We're never gonna be. What did she call it again? Calligraphy.
Calligraphers. We'll never be calligraphers.
We'll never be calligraphers.
We'll never be calligraphers. That's a skill that's lost to time. So when this agreement is drawn up, Philip goes home and Rachel is being visited by a mustache guy.
Mustache.
I never could figure out what this man's name is, so I'll just call him Mustache Guy because they call him one name, and I wrote that down in my notes. Oh, that's his name. But then they call him a different name, and then I'm like, who are they talking about? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
So it's just Mustache Guy.
Yeah.
And Rachel and Mustache Guy have lunch. They talk in Italian. Philip doesn't understand what they're talking about. He's immediately just like morose with jealousy.
Yeah.
Like Florence Pugh frown in the corner, just so pissed about this. And I forgot to mention that when the Godfather, I keep calling him the Godfather like it's Marlon Brando, but Louise's dad, he has this really nice piano that has this like fresco painted on the lid of it. Very pretty.
Yeah, and he's playing it when Sam comes in to tell him that he wants to give up everything.
Yes. Yeah. And everyone's always trying to talk reason into him. And that's another key reason. He's 24. Like the decisions I was making when I was 24, and I wasn't even in charge of what would today be like, I don't know, a $250 million estate. Like this estate would be worth so much money today.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I was just talking to someone the other day because I recently turned 30 about how I can't believe I ever considered myself an adult in my early 20s. Like I wouldn't even consider myself an adult now. Like it's insane the type of decisions we're allowed to make when we're like 18.
I know.
It's insane.
I know. And the amount of judgment that people will pass on people who are like, it's like, can you like, they're like 23, sometimes, especially young celebrities and
I know.
people in general. I want to be like, you are a grown ass adult.
Yes.
Cut this person some slack. What were you doing when you were that age?
Seriously. I know, right?
I was at a party over the weekend, and there was a gentleman I was talking to. I have no idea how old this person was, but I think he was much younger than I thought he was, because he was talking about getting his first like apartment by himself. And he said that he feels like an adult because when he goes to get food at the party, he remembers to get a napkin. And as he says that, I've just got like mustard all over my face and no napkin. And I'm like, oh, you reminded me. I forgot something. I'll be right back. So yeah, I guess it also will never be an adult.
Yeah, people mature at different rates.
Yes. He was also very boring. He was very sweet, but very boring.
Yeah,
So
right. At
yeah.
least
Yeah.
maturity isn't always fun.
Yeah, exactly. No, maturity is not interesting.
Yeah. We wouldn't have this great story if
No.
Sam Claflin was mature.
Was mature and made reasonable decisions. Exactly.
Yeah,
There'd be no script.
exactly.
So he is ready to sign his whole life away to Rachel.
Mhm.
And he's riding across these gorgeous cliffs on his horse. And the
Mm.
cliff collapses. He almost goes off the cliff.
Yeah. It's like
Very
so
dramatic
sudden.
scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing I like about this movie is that it's a very quiet chamber piece. It's mostly just people talking. And when stuff
Yeah.
like this happens, yeah, it's just in an instant. There's no foreshadowing, there's no
Right.
suspense. It just happens.
Yeah.
hmm And so at midnight, he's 25 and 1 second, and he climbs into Rachel's room like Romeo and Juliet. And
Mhm.
he has also taken all of the jewelry his family owns and is just showering her with this like she's Demi Moore in Indecent Proposal. But she, no, she wouldn't even, she's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And they end up sleeping together that
Yes.
evening, having the relations. And
Mhm.
he leaves this agreement afterwards on her pillow that will tell her that she is now the heiress to the estate.
Mhm.
He goes to take a naked dip in the ocean. Great. Give us some cheeks in this PG-13 movie. Love
Yep.
it. Love a butt shot in a PG-13 movie, especially when it's a man.
Mhm.
And so he is just smitten because we're also pretty sure he's a virgin up until this point.
Right.
She might only be the like second woman that he doesn't own that he's ever seen.
Literally, yeah. Oh my god, that's right. Yeah.
It's Louise and her.
Yeah.
And he's ready to take her out for a birthday picnic,
Mhm.
spend the day with her, but she's taking the carriage to town. She's not home.
Yeah.
He spends the day drinking and missing her. She comes back in, I think, one of the iconic shots of the movie where she has her jet black mourning veil over her face. The
Mhm.
framing of this thing is stunning. And Rachel Weisz is so pale, like the sun. UV rays have never touched her skin. And she's just glowing from underneath this veil.
Yep.
And he ends up taking her to this clearing full of bluebells, and they have sex again. She just kind of lies there.
Yeah. She doesn't seem super into it.
No, but he doesn't notice, and he has a
Yep.
great time. And that evening, she gives him his birthday present, which is this like stick pin for his cravat with a tiny little pearl on the end. And she says something like, I knew I was going to inherit this entire estate. I would have given you a bigger pearl.
Yeah.
And she makes him a birthday tisana. And he drinks it and starts to kind of feel weird. But he's also drank like 2 bottles of wine this day. So he ends up proposing to her at dinner. It's her, Louise's dad.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh, no.
Yeah, it's very cringy. Well, and because like, I don't even know if proposing is the right word, because he basically says, we're getting married. Like
That's
me
true.
and Rachel are getting married. And she's like, news to me.
That's very true. He skips the proposal step. He just announces their impending nuptials.
Yeah, which, that's one way to do it.
Oh, yeah, she's not happy.
Yeah.
And they get in this big confrontation. She says to him, did you think you've bought me? And he grabs her and almost strangles her.
Yeah.
And snaps the pearls, very symbolic, as these pearls bounce down the stairs.
Yeah, very who's that director? Is that Zack Snyder who likes to do that?
Does he do that?
there's a director, because I know he did it. Did he do it for a Batman? Maybe it's Christopher Nolan. I don't know. All I know is that there was the pearls in the Batman movie, and then I think something else. So yeah,
Oh, maybe it is either one of
yeah,
them. Yeah.
yeah. Big pearl guys.
They love their pearls. They're very symbolic. And we had the pearls in Spencer. There were pearls. She
That's
broke those
right.
pearls.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Hmm.
Especially when it comes to royalty or just rich
Yeah,
people. Mhm.
yeah. Rich
Do you
people
own
love
any
their pearls.
pearls?
I own a pearl. Did you ever go to one of those like kitschy? I did this in Hawaii though, so it wasn't kitschy.
Ooh,
Where you
humble
like
brag.
crack open your own clam and there's a pearl on the inside. I did that in Hawaii and I have that pearl on a string somewhere. So yeah, I'm pretty wealthy.
I love that. I,
Yeah.
during COVID, was obsessed with Facebook Live videos of this
I
gay
know what you're
man from
talking about.
Alabama
Yeah.
who would shuck the clams that were clearly fake. They would have like pink pearls and
Yeah.
green pearls,
Right.
and people would be in the comments saying like, "Oh, I love your new teeth," because he had gotten new teeth, but
Aw.
the dentures didn't quite fit, so he was kind of like,
Oh.
"Yeah, this over a bit." And then there was just so much drama in the Facebook comments of
Mm.
this Vancombe pearl shucker from
Wow.
Alabama. And oh, I watched that hardcore for like 2 weeks. Mhm.
Does he still do it? Do you know?
I should check back. This was 2 or
Yeah.
3 years ago. I should see
Yeah.
what's going on in the comments because I used to then I would tell people, "Look what happened on the Vancombe Pearl Facebook
Yeah.
Live." So,
Very
and,
interesting.
working at a library, I felt like we should have capitalized on that. And instead of doing story time, we should have shucked pearls on Facebook
Yeah.
and done a fundraiser.
Well, that's how I feel. Have you gotten on the side yet of Trent? We're totally not talking about the movie now, but where you have you seen the videos of someone rolling glass bottles downstairs?
What?
Oh
No.
my God, they're so satisfying. They take these glass bottles. It was this one guy, and I've been obsessed with him for months. I'm not trying to sound like, oh, I was obsessed with this before other people, but like for
But you
months,
were.
I was. I'm obsessed. He takes glass bottles, just like whatever, wine bottles, vodka bottles, sauce, anything, and rolls them down like concrete stairs. And you kind of like have to anticipate if they're going to break or not. Some of them do, some of them don't. Anyway, it's become this like huge thing. Now people put like, the Orbeez in them, like Orbeez, and they're like those like little squishy balls, and then you put
Okay.
water and they expand. So people will put that in glass bottles now and roll them downstairs, and I hate that. It's so
Mm.
unsatisfying to me.
Yeah, rude. Fuck
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, but okay, so getting back to the movie, we should get a glass bottle, fill it with pearls, roll it down some concrete stairs, let it break, and it'll be our interpretation of the My Cousin
Our
Rachel scene.
interpretive video of My Cousin
Yeah.
Rachel.
Yeah.
And mini gothic scenes, yeah.
Honestly, yeah. I would be surprised if no one's done pearls yet. I should find out.
Mhm.
This could be our
We're
thing.
gonna hit all of these viral trends. So, yes, back to the movie.
Yeah.
So Philip is still smitten with Rachel. Poor
Mhm.
Louise. He tells Louise how he's going to continue to ask Rachel to marry him until she
Yeah.
says yes. And Louise tells him how Rachel responded when her father told him about the marriage clause. She said, "That suits me very well."
Yes.
So we're left with some ambiguity here. But basically, Louise tries to tell him, why would she marry you? You've put in this clause in the contract where she has to give up the estate if she marries anyone. So if
Yeah.
she marries Philip, he just takes the property and all the money back. Why would she do that?
Right.
And
Yeah.
he tries to be like, but like, I would still give her everything. Like, I'd still blah, blah, blah. And Louise is trying to be like, sir, dude, like, get it through your head.
Yeah.
Like, there's no practical reason for her to do this, no matter how she feels.
Yeah.
So back at home, Rachel is playing cribbage with Mary Pascoe, who we haven't talked about. There are these two
Mm.
girls, the Pascoe girls. I think they're the priests or the pastor's
Yeah.
daughters, and they're smitten with Philip as well.
Mhm.
But they're playing cribbage and saying muggins, muggins. And have you ever played cribbage?
No, I didn't know it was actually a game that people played.
People people play it. People get very
Yeah.
serious about their cribbage board. Like still,
Wow.
I don't know if this is an England/New England thing, but I've
Mm.
met a few serious cribbage players up here. I tried to play, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks. I never got far enough where I could play without holding like the rule sheet. There's lots of
Okay.
rules.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah.
lots of rules. It's kind of
Hmm.
like it was a card game. It's not kind of like it is a card game, but you have
Yeah.
to make different thing like combos, like three of a kind or
Okay.
straights or stuff, and then you move your little pin along this board
Oh, okay.
for no
I've never been
reason.
good. Yeah.
Most card games, do you know what you need? You need a pen and you need a piece of paper. But
Mm.
cribbage, you have a board to do the exact same thing. You move like a golf tee around a board.
Interesting.
So it's very showy.
Yeah, yeah.
But Rachel tries to tell Philip that she does not feel safe with him anymore because he has physically assaulted her at this point. And so she's brought in Mary Pascoe to be like her handmaiden, and she's always trying to keep her around. She doesn't want to feel alone with Philip.
Yeah.
And I think this movie is so good at being so subtle about it. You're always with Philip. I don't know if he's in every scene, but he might be. He's your POV character.
Right.
And you don't get the gravity of the situation because you're seeing it through his eyes. You're not seeing her.
Right, right. Yeah. Like you said, he's your point into the movie. So you're obviously going to side with him more. Yeah, it is. It's really messes with your mind in that way.
Yeah, and the dialogue is very quick. So
Yeah.
stuff can pass by very quickly without you catching the gravity of the situation.
Yes. Yeah.
So he ends up coming down with this delirious fever,
Mhm.
and she makes him a tisane. And she says, drink. And he talks about how he's afraid she's still going to leave. She's going to go to London. She's going to leave him. And she says, how can I live with a boy? She calls him a miserable puppy looking for its mother.
Oh, yeah.
And she's kind of like, it's kind of very Oedipal because she's both mother and sex object. She's mothering him and she's hot to him because she's also much older than him. We're never quite given her age.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she's somewhere between him and Ambrose. So yeah. And yeah, again, like he's a baby. He's only 25.
Yeah. He's so confused.
Yeah.
And he has no good role models. I shouldn't say that because he does have Louise's dad who's always trying to talk some sense into him, but he doesn't listen to the good role models, I should say.
Yes. Yeah.
So she ends up inviting Mustache back, and Philip loses his goddamn mind again. He threatens her, and she pulls her power card. She says, do you want to be shamed in front of the servants? Like, I will call the servants in if you don't stop threatening me. And she gets a fire poker. And I almost started crying during this scene, watching it for like the second or third time, because I was really starting to realize her perspective.
Yeah.
And she says, I can't do this again. I can't do it again. And you're realizing that Ambrose probably abused her. Like when he had this brain tumor and thought she was killing him, he was attacking her, and now she's reliving this all over again. And it's so devastating.
Right. It is incredibly sad in retrospect. There's not a lot of movies I've seen that make me feel so bad in retrospect for a character. Yeah.
Like, because you from Philip, the whole point of this movie is she or isn't she trying to poison him? And you might be able to guess by now, I firmly believe she's not. And like, when you see it from her perspective, you're just like, fuck, oh my God, just the situation she's in is really tough.
Yeah.
And it gets worse because he decides she's going out for a ride later on. She gets on the horse. She's looking gorgeous. She's no longer in her mourning wear. She's in her blue dress now. And she mentions the field in which they had their little dalliance in the past. And he says to her, the bluebells are long gone, I'm afraid. And then he tells her, you know what you should do is you should go along the cliff path and see the baby seals.
Yeah.
And so off she rides, and he and Louise go and root through her room, and they find a note in Italian. Louise, who knew, woman of all trades, can read Italian.
Incredible.
She translates it, and they discover that she gave back all the jewelry that he gave her. She did not want it. And she also finds this letter from Mustache to Rachel, in which he says that if she wants to, she could bring Philip to Italy with her. He doesn't think it's a good idea, but it's her decision. And then Louise says a line that really should enter my lexicon, where she says, Enrico is more Greek than he is Italian.
Yes.
And then because Philip is adult, it's not his fault. You know, we don't have the internet or anything. But then she just goes, he likes boys, Philip.
I'm using that line all the time now. Happy Pride. More Greek than Italian.
More Greek than Italian. Yes, I love that.
It's
like
so
poor Rachel,
good.
she's been so jealous. She's been sitting here basically trying to gab with her gay friends. Like she's just trying to gossip in Italian with her like BFF gay, and like he's
this
jealous
25-year-old kid. Who's like,
I know. I know, it's so funny.
Oh.
Well, it's funny for a hot second because then, whoops, we find her dad at the foot of the cliff. Philip has virtually sent her to her death. He has indirectly murdered her.
Yeah.
And in a scene that is not as funny as when Florence Pugh had to shoot the horse. This one is actually sad. This poor horse has survived this fall off the cliff. Yeah. So in the background, they shoot the horse and put it down. And then we get this, I don't know, 4 or 5 year flash forward because Philip is now a father. Mm-hmm. He has had children with Louise, and the voiceover comes back and he says, "Who's to blame?" And I just say to the TV, "You, you."
Yeah.
And it ends like it began. Was she? Did she? Yeah. Rachel, my torment. The end.
There it is.
There it is. Devastating. This is, I find, a real tragic movie. Real heavy watch, which is probably why I haven't gone back to it as much. It's a very heavy movie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very serious movie. Yeah, it is quite good though.
It's again, like we talked about, there's few movies that I think are this subtle and allow the audience to be intelligent and thoughtful.
Right.
And maybe the 45% Rotten Tomatoes rating shows that audiences do not like being intelligent and thoughtful. Right. Maybe I'm being a little defensive of this movie that I do like, but I do think there is a reason why there isn't a lot of sophisticated adult fare, which I think this movie is.
Right. Well, and two, I do, to give, I guess, the critics, like, you know, the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure a lot of people are just so turned off by how frustrating Philip is. Because he's so frustrating. And because even me, while watching it, I just wanted to pull his hair out. But at the same time, then I thought about all of the 24-year-old men I knew. And I was like, oh, this is actually very accurate. And yeah, I mean, he's frustrating, but you know, I think also it's a really good, you know, tell of what happens when you give a 25-year-old man who has only been raised around men, so he probably doesn't have the emotional intelligence that he needs, a huge amount of money and power.
And no education. Like, this is what happens when you let men believe women can be witches.
Yes.
When you let them believe that, this is what happens.
Yeah. Right. Yes. And also, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, and also just, I guess in a more positive towards Philip note, he cares so deeply about his cousin. I mean, this is a man who basically rescued him from being an orphan, and so he's not going to doubt what he's writing. And I think he really looked at Ambrose with rose-colored glasses. I mean, and to give him credit, he wasn't there for it. He thinks of Ambrose as this father figure, as this probably undeniably sane and strong person. So if he's getting letters from him saying that this woman is hurting him, he's going to believe him.
Right. And we didn't have the same knowledge of science then as we do today. Sure, you can tell him we did an autopsy and it's a brain tumor, but we didn't understand then how much that can entirely change a person's personality.
Right. Well, and also think about all of the conspiracy theories out there, even now. I mean, people die of certain things, and people on the internet will say, yeah, but maybe the coroner, So.
Oh, yeah. Like Avril Lavigne's been replaced.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a clone, you guys.
I always forget how so many people believe that Katy Perry is John Benet Ramsey.
God, that's right. That's a fun one.
That's a fun one. Yeah. Not for Jean Benet, but
yeah.
If I was Katy Perry, and I like tasteless humor, lean into that, Katy. Lean into that. Do a music video where she's dressed up in the in the tutu. It's too soon. Come on. She's got to at some point before her career is over.
She puts in what do they
just nuke the career with that.
Right. What do they call them on Toddlers in Tears? The fake teeth. They call them chompers or something.
Yeah. I never engaged with any of that material.
Oh man. Yeah, no, Katy Perry should lean into that.
She really should. So that's your free advice, Katy. We know you're listening, but so we'll take a short break. Get yourself a nice hot tisane. Maybe pour some whiskey in it, because again, it's a heavy movie. We need a drink, and we'll be back with our Gothic recap, and we'll decide, is it Gothic? All right, ghosties, we're back with our Gothic roundup. All Gothic films have 4 elements: a girl, a guy, a house, and a haunt. This one's complicated. So for our girl and guy, one reason I really like this movie is that you can view it from either perspective. The movie presents itself as what we've called the gender reversal Gothic, where Philip is your girl and Rachel is your guy. And because so often you find yourself in this situation where the quote unquote girl, Philip, is in love with the guy, older person, has power and knowledge over them, eventually has more money than them. In this case, he willfully gives to her, but just holds the power and the mystery and maybe manipulating them in some way. But you can also view it from the Rachel character perspective, and you get what I think is this very traditional Gothic story. She's been drawn to this house, kind of against her own. She's stuck. She has no other choice. She's either homeless or here. And she's with this guy who is volatile, who, I mean, I guess I'm just repeating volatile, but his mood changes from one time to the next. He's in love with her. He's trying to kill her. He loves her. She's a whore. He can't make up his mind. And she's trapped. She's trapped in this house.
Yeah. I mean, she really is. And again, just that, it's so funny because when you see it in the beginning of the movie from, the perspective of seeing it as Philip, she pulls up to this house in her mourning, well, you don't see her pull up to the house. She just kind of ends up in the room. But you imagine it, she's pulling up to the house. She's this sad, broken woman from her perspective. But when you're seeing it from Philip, it's, oh, here comes this evil witchy woman. So it's really, really fun how they, I guess fun maybe isn't the best word, but really
it's fun to pick it apart. It's such a well-written story. I'm assuming this is fairly faithful to the book. Like I said, we haven't read the book. There's also an older adaptation of this movie that I've never seen. But this one, I do really enjoy for the complexity of it.
Right. Yeah.
So we also have a house. We have a gorgeous estate.
Oh,
The cinematography and the location scouting for this movie
yeah.
is absolutely brilliant.
So beautiful. Oh my God.
So you can like visit these places too, which is
Really?
amazing. Yeah. So the exterior shots where they're riding along the beaches and the cliffs is what's known as the Fleet Estate in South Devon. So Fleet is Flete. They have a website, fleet.co.uk. It looks just like the movie. Like it
Yeah.
is absolutely gorgeous.
Really?
You can stay in a cottage, you can walk around. I don't want to know how much it is because I want to hold in my head that someday I might actually be able to do this. And I know if I look at the price tag, I probably can't.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful.
Really?
So nice. And they talk about on the website all the wildflowers and birds and animals. It's just like a national heritage site in England and like a unique ecosystem and stuff. So it seems like paradise for a country that is generally bleak and rocky and gray.
Yes. Well, I
This
was
is
gonna
not.
say, like, usually when we're talking about British Gothic movies, it's always the moors. It's always which I do love. I would love to run across a foggy moor.
Oh, pretend you're Florence Pugh running across the moors. Yes.
Right? But yeah, the difference between that, which is, generally flat and kind of desolate looking, and to this, where, I mean, again, I don't know how much fiddling with colors there was done, but the ocean looks so blue and beautiful. And I mean, he might have been lying about it, but I'm sure it happens at some point. Baby seals on the beach. I would risk it. I would risk it.
Right.
I'd go right up to that cliffside to see baby seals.
They could have made the ending even more tragic that she fell on a baby seal. And then it's her, the horse, and a seal that have all died. You really want
very, very symbolic. You could say that Philip was like a baby seal, just naive and slippery.
There goes his innocence. If this were like a Lifetime movie, they totally would have gone that far. And the house is, the exteriors of the house are the West Horsley Place. And they also have a website, westhorsleyplace.org. And I don't know what this means, but it says it's a grade 1 medieval manor house and estate of great beauty and historical significance. So this house dates from 1425.
Wow.
And it's been like remodeled and stuff over time, but there's been a house on this property for 600 years.
That's bananas.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So this would be another great place to visit. They do all sorts of hippy dippy bullshit, like something that they have listed on the website as forest bathing.
Oh.
And you can have a guide help you forest bathe.
Oh, lovely.
And she says, when we forest bathe, we intentionally create space and time in our busy lives to slow down and reconnect with nature.
Wow.
It's a fucking hike.
Yeah.
It's a hike in the woods.
Can we take a nap on the bluebells?
Oh, that would be nice. Bluebell bathe.
Oh.
But just the fact that they have a guide on their website. Like they have a bunch of cool events you can do. But yeah, you can go, please don't sue us for defamation, but you can go on a forest bathing adventure with some sort of certified kook named Lisa.
Oh, Lisa.
who studied at the Forest Bathing Institute in the UK. The website has the gall to put, having studied at the Forest Bathing Institute, parentheses, TFBI, in the UK. Do not justify this Do not validate this with a fucking acronym.
Oh my God. I want
If
to get
anyone said to me, I studied at the TFBI, I would say,
Uh-huh.
what? What? The TCBY? The TGIF? What? I love TCBY.
Yeah.
And then they would say, no, the Forest Bathing Institute.
Oh.
The fuck is that? Forest bathing.
I'm sorry if it ends our friendship, but I kind of want to get my doctorate in forest bathing.
I
Can
say
I?
you go for it because, I mean, I'm all for you getting that money and like extorting rich people,
That's
which
so
is really what
true.
this is. So I
Yeah.
shouldn't defame Lisa because I'm all for the extortion
She's-
of rich people.
Yeah. She's making that
And
bag.
I will say Lisa should charge more money. The ticket only costs £35.
Oh,
I
Lisa.
feel like it should be honestly £135.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And but yeah, it's also like kind of colonizing because Lisa is like the whitest white woman you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And according to this bio, forest bathing originated in Japan, where it is called Shinrin Yoku.
Oh.
Research in Japan has shown forest bathing to improve our physiology, such as enhancing our immune system, stabilizing blood pressure, lowering stress, improving sleep and concentration, as well as improving our well-being. Again, I hope it's not racist to say this, but like it's a fucking hike.
It's a hike. Yeah.
I love that the Japanese people are calling it forest bathing, but
Right.
the pictures are literally just a bunch of white women sitting in the woods with their eyes closed.
Great.
That's
Fantastic.
all it is. No one's like rubbing leaves over themselves.
Yeah.
Drinking tree sap. Like there's no bathing happening.
Yeah. Yeah. If
And
you're
also
not getting
cold,
wet.
they're all very layered.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just go on all trails, find yourself a hiking path, and save yourself 35 pounds.
Save yourself 35 pounds. Go to West Horsley Place and just take a walk.
Yeah, right.
On a different trail
exactly.
than Lisa's on. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't need that.
Avoid Lisa.
Avoid Lisa.
That'll lower my blood pressure.
Being with all these women, I just talk about, I love women, love movies, anti-misogyny, and now like being with all these women would drive me up the fucking wall.
My blood pressure would skyrocket.
Skyrocket. This is just the type of woman that I just feel like I would not like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm projecting a certain type of New Hampshire woman onto these people that I do not like. Again, the party that I went to over the weekend, there was a woman that I made bananagrams with, and I hope I didn't tell her about the podcast and that she listens and that she hears this because I found her so annoying. And at the end of the party, she said to people, she said, "Thank you, new friends," and I just wanted to say, "I'm not your friend." Don't call me that. There were some boundaries that I appreciate that no longer existed.
Yeah.
And it made me uncomfortable. And I feel like Lisa might not have boundaries.
Right.
Appropriate boundaries.
Yeah. I've always had a weird relationship with spirit. I had a coworker one time who would say she was an empath. And so she would use that like a spiritual empath too. So she would use that to make guesses about like my dead relatives and things. And I'm like, can you please not? So yeah, I get where you're coming from.
That's more than most people who I've heard are empaths.
Yeah.
The people who I hear are empaths have like no filter in a bad way. And it's like, for as empathetic as you're saying you are, you don't seem to realize that you are driving me up the fucking wall and making me really uncomfortable and I want to leave.
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like you would get that if you actually had
you could
a
actually
smidgen of empathy for me.
Yeah.
Read the room.
I'm not that good at camouflaging my emotions. You should be, as a normal human being, be able to understand what I'm trying to convey.
Yeah, that word is a red flag.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Anyways.
Anyways, we also have we don't really have a haunt in this one,
Mm.
but as we briefly mentioned, there are some mentions in this movie like that Rachel might be a witch, that she's
Mm.
using these teas to brainwash people, that these teas have some sort of psychological manipulative properties. And that was one thing that really stuck with me in this movie when I watched it. So I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Did when you were watching the movie, did you think Rachel was poisoning or manipulating him?
Yes, I did.
I
Yeah.
did too.
Hmm.
And I really thought that's the direction they were going in, because they get a little heavy-handed one point with the drinking the tisane.
Yeah.
And it was kind of annoying me because I thought this movie was going in that direction,
Right.
and then it didn't.
Yes.
And so at what point did you realize or believe that she was somewhat innocent or not doing it?
Well, so what's interesting is I think I kind of have I don't think that she was poisoning him, like making him sick or anything. I don't think that she was murderous or anything. But I sort of have a different opinion in that I do think in a way she was maybe still manipulating him.
Okay.
Um, you know, again, I've only watched it the once, so maybe on second, watch I'll change my opinion a little bit, but just like how detached she could make herself from him
Mm,
after being so close and this confidant. And I understand that like relationships are complicated and nuanced, but like I still saw like maybe there was some manipulation there, something like that. So I kind of like at the end of the movie feel terrible she died. But I almost still fell in that category of I was wondering, did she or didn't she?
mm,
So I don't know that I really had a point where like I fully thought she was innocent. And
okay.
because they never explained like exactly where all of her money was going. So my thought was maybe that she was transferring a lot of money somewhere safe so that she could get away at some point, which, is probably a smart thing for her to do. But maybe she was kind of manipulating him to like quell his nerves about her leaving until she was
Yeah.
able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I think each time I watch the movie, I
Mm,
feel more for her. And
mm,
so, yeah, with this time, yeah, the money thing is a question, but I think the way you put it, like, yeah, she's a woman who has no options
yeah.
at this time. So I just can't blame her for doing that. And I
Yeah.
do think she does care for Philip in this motherly way.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to break his heart. So it can come across to him as manipulative,
Mm,
but I think she's trying to let him down easy.
yeah.
And he also like is an experienced woman, we'll say.
Yes. Yeah.
So having sex with this admittedly hot 24-year-old isn't going to change her world
Yes. Yeah,
like it
that's
does
true.
for him. So
Mm,
for him, it's just like mind blowing and he's
yeah.
smitten with her. For her, I mean, he's probably one of many that she's
Yeah.
had.
Well,
And
yeah.
she's had some hot Italian guys in the
I
past.
know,
And
right?
like the Italians are objectively hotter than the British.
Yeah. They're
So
Italian, not Greek.
so they're just I don't know. So
Yeah. That's a good point
yeah.
too, though. Yeah. I mean, I think whether or not she was trying to be manipulative or whatever, I think that her vibes were great. She was a woman with a real can-do attitude, and I love that
Yes.
for her.
Exactly. She's trying to make it work,
Mhm.
and she falls victim to this misogyny, the
Mm,
misogyny that lets men believe women are manipulative harpies who
yeah,
will kill men to take their money,
right.
she is a woman in a society that believes women are gold diggers, that believes women are whores.
Mm,
And it's such a tragedy because it ends with her dying
yeah.
and him getting an entire estate and a family.
Yep. Yeah, that is
He
true.
suffers no consequences.
Right.
Other than like, oh, I feel guilty. Fuck
Yeah.
off. You can feel guilty all you want on your gigantic estate with Holiday Granger. Honestly, great. Like, not a downgrade in any
No.
way. She's
Yeah.
fantastic. And I started one thing, since I have seen this movie multiple times, started thinking about her. I was trying to be like, is she like, what is, because she's the one who tells Rachel to return the pearls, and she's the one who tells Philip that that what she said when they let her know about the marriage clause, like,
right.
And I'm like, oh no, and now I'm falling into the trap of being like, Louise is the manipulative bitch in this scenario. There's got to be at least one manipulative woman in here.
Yeah, right.
But to extend the same courtesy to Louise, she likes Philip, and she's not wrong. She's never lying to him.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting. And, I like that there's a movie with, at least 2 named female characters.
Yeah.
They're fully realized characters. I really like these characters.
Yeah, I agree.
So we also have some bonus gothics in this one. We have that gorgeous Panano with the fresco on it.
Yep.
We have socially acceptable incest. Marry your cousin. Fine. Marry your cousin. Marry your own cousin who was married to your own cousin. Great. Go for it.
Just cousins all around. It's so funny because by the middle of this movie, I forgot that they were related too.
It's so passionate. Yeah. It's cousins all the way down. He's well, and also and not that it's blood relatives, but Louise's dad is his godfather. Like, they're very close.
Right.
They grew up together.
Yeah, they don't have a big social circle. They really need to get out there and find some new people.
That's another thing with the British. I feel like they're all very insular and inbred.
Yeah.
Don't add us, British listeners.
No.
I forgot our statistics, but I don't think we have a lot of British listeners. We have
Probably
a lot of
for
listeners
this reason.
From we had some listeners from Algeria or somewhere unexpected. Oh yeah. 12% of our listeners are from Algeria. We love you.
Hello.
You're not inbreeding, and only 1% is from the UK. So invite your
1%.
brother who you're also sleeping with to listen to the podcast, please. Thank you.
It's an island. We get it. You don't get off the island very much.
Where can you go? That's a very good point.
Right.
And we have inaugurated a new bonus gothic, which is T.
Everywhere.
You know that I already forgot her name. Miss Forest Bather is serving tisane instead of tea. She's not calling it tea. She's calling it a tisane while we forest bathe. And it's like, bitch, it's tea in the woods. Tea in the woods.
Yes. Yeah, just because you put like some acorn in there doesn't mean that it's anything fancy.
She would put an acorn in there.
She'd put an acorn in there. Yeah, I don't even think I can order tea from Starbucks anymore because I would just be instantly suspicious of my barista. Like, we talk so much about people being poisoned in tea. Why is it always tea? Is it because tea sucks inherently and so people can't taste the poison?
Right, because it just tastes like leaves and wood and bark.
Yeah, I think tea sucks and that's how people get away with poisoning people.
I'm anti-tea.
Yeah.
Anti-tea.
Anti-tea. I think I like tea, but anti. This is an anti podcast.
Yeah. I like a good chamomile. I like a good sleepy time tea from, is that Bigelow? No, Celestial Seasonings, I think. Sleepy time tea. It's got a picture of a little bear who's sleeping next to an old-fashioned radio.
Yeah.
And I love that when I'm sick. It doesn't do, I'm not even going to finish that sentence, but I don't believe it actually does a goddamn thing, but but it's very soothing in an emotional way.
Right. I like chai a lot, but it's usually because it's mostly like cinnamon. So I don't think anyone can poison me in that way. I would know if something was wrong with my chai, I think. I don't know.
You know what those flavors are going to be.
Yeah. I hope, at least.
But yeah, some of the herbal teas, like you could totally put some cyanide, some of
Yeah.
that almond based, I think that is cyanide
Ooh,
poisons in
yeah,
there, and no one would
definitely.
know.
Seriously. And you would say it was like Lisa would say it was like gourmet, and you'd have to go,
Lisa would say it
okay.
has almond milk in it, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, that's cyanide.
No, she'd go, it has almond essence in it.
Essence of
Yeah,
almond.
because almond milk is too mainstream now.
That's true. You could buy that at Market Basket.
Yeah.
Lisa would never
No,
enter a Market Basket.
Lisa shops at Erewhon. She flies to LA just to shop at Erewhon.
And Whole Foods in a pinch.
Exactly. Or just does like a whole gathering, hunting and gathering.
Well, I'm so glad no one listens to our podcast, and Lisa will not find this out and sue us for defamation.
I hope she does.
I hope she does. It would get us some recognition.
Exactly.
That
we
would
need
be
the
great.
publicity.
We need the publicity. Please share this with Lisa.
Find Lisa, please share it.
And I think Lisa should convince us that
Yeah.
forest bathing is a valid thing and invite us to the West Horsley estate for some forest
Ooh.
bathing. We would gladly go and let Lisa sponsor the podcast.
I would keep an open mind, but I will not drink any tea you serve me, Lisa.
We will not ingest anything that Lisa is going to give us,
No.
but we will breathe in the forest air as we intentionally create space and time in our busy lives to slow down and reconnect with nature.
Exactly.
All right, let's reconnect with the podcast.
Yeah.
This is what happens when I have 2 glasses of wine while we podcast. What do you think? Is this gothic?
I mean, yeah, I think it's gothic. I think there's some categories that don't 100% like fit, but I mean, I feel like it almost doesn't get more gothic.
I think this is hardcore gothic.
Yeah.
And yeah, it proves that we don't necessarily, sometimes I feel like we've disqualified things because we don't have the haunt, but this is one that shows that if you really, really understand the other categories, you don't necessarily need the haunt. And it does have this kind of like threat of a haunt, a light haunt hovering in the background. So you do need at least some sprinkle of that in your tisane to be gothic. But yeah, so gothic.
Yeah.
My cousin Rachel. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you, Ghosties, for listening to us break down My Cousin Rachel. Ghosties, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Share us with a friend, whether or not they're into forest bathing, and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Drop us an email, sogothicpod@gmail.com, for comments or suggestions for future films, and follow us on Instagram every, once a month. We drop a hint about what we'll discuss next. So until next time, stay ghosty. Boo-bye.
Bye.